your stakeholders. So clearly they're going to be looking at design being more sustainable with sustainable ingredients, that the energy that you're evaluating the energy you do to produce the product and how it's disposed. And you're augmenting your supply chain so that the supply chain is most efficient, most creative, and most dependable. And more importantly than anything, that your brand, in addition to giving you a product, is actually through some of its products and some of its resources and some of its profits are actually giving back to the community. They're giving back to the people who have helped to create it, both in terms of employment and in education and creating better resources for the community. So this really goes back to the Unilever brand. And about 2 decades ago, the chairman of the board of Unilever was visiting Egypt. And in Egypt, they had a plant which was developing bottled water. And he visited the plant, and he visited with the managers of the plant. And he asked a lot of questions about how the water was bottled and the profit and the delivery of the water bottles. And then he asked some questions about the people who were at the plant, the people who were on the lines, who were the management team. And he found out that they had very poor education systems. Some of them didn't even have clean water at home. Some of them did not earn enough money to educate their families. And he came back to the board, and for 10 years, he worked in transforming Unilever from being a profit-centered company to one that was going to be focused on all the stakeholders, and what was then became a term of art in creating shared value between the plant in Egypt and the corporate entity in the Netherlands. And in doing that, they began to invest in the local area, in the people that were producing these water bottles, which are being sold for $1 or $2 in the international environment, but very little was coming back to the local area. So they wanted to create a shared value for the product that was being developed, and how the profits and the resources were being shared on the local level. And that became a model which I shared later, created a really steady stream of sustainable brands and profit for the company. But that's a very important thing, because that comes again from Adel's question about where does this transformation begin? It begins with the leaders. It begins with the people that control the resources and are willing to allocate resources to invest back into the community, to harmonize it with the goals and the purpose of the company, which is Unilever, to provide a consistent and a sustainable lifestyle to all those people that interact with their products, including the people that are manufacturing them in less developed countries than, say, Holland. So that's the next slide, please. So the last slide is really talking about stakeholder relationships, which we've gone over, and just understand that trust has to be pervasive across that entire supply chain. And we've gone over this. I think we just skipped this, but it's really developing advocacy at the customer level, developing loyalty at the employer level, developing collaboration and co-creation at the partnership level, developing trust and investment at the investor level, and creating local talent, impact at the local level to attract talent, purchases, and impact the local community. So trust is pervasive through all of the supply chain and all of the stakeholder chain. Thank you. So how do we build trust? And so we're going to look at that specifically. You know, we need to build trust through authenticity, through credibility, through accountability, through making our product relevant to all these markets, and it's evidenced in the community that it actually creates that trust. And it's been suggested that successful brands like Subaru or Lego or Walt Disney, these global brands, have to stop seeing the people they interact with as customers, but as really stakeholders in investing their time, money, and attention and their brands in something they love. People love Lego. They love the Disney Channel. They love Subaru cars and many, many other things. And if you can get them to love and use love as a potent force for transforming the people that interact with you, you'll develop much greater loyalty and be a much more sustainable impact on our globe. Next, please. So now is the time for a test. And we talk about the brand is empowered by certain values. I'm writing a new book called Strategic Harmony, Transforming Crisis into Sustainability. And it looks at 4 values: trust, empathy, sustainability, and transparency. And clearly every company will add their own values, from integrity to honesty and so forth and so on, to the way they embody their own why. But I want to see if there's a gap between what you say and what you do. Do you pass the stakeholder test? If you trust all those stakeholders, which we had on the previous slide, are each one of them feeling empathy? Are the decisions driven by sustainability? Or being transparent up and down the supply chain and with our community and our reporting of our profits and our impact and our decisions? Or are we protecting ourselves? So there's often a really big gap on a human level about what we say or what we intend and what we do. And that gap is going to be the gap of the sustainability test. So next slide, please.
Shall we go for the?
So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you an opportunity to interact. And this was a recent survey done by the Edelman company. The people who created the Edelman Trust Barometer. And they did a series of about 60 questions in 12 major markets from throughout Asia and the Oceania region, through Europe and through the Middle East and Africa and Latin America and North America, South and North America. And they had tens of thousands of people responded. And this was about rating your company's brand and the role it has in the pandemic. So what I wanted to do was to give you an example of 5 questions and say, as the leader of your company or your nonprofit, how you respond to this question. Either you strongly agree, you moderately agree, you're neutral to it, you moderately disagree, or you strongly disagree. And I want to see what the percentage, how you compared with the global survey on this. And we'll see the gap in what adjustments you might need to make, because there is a preponderance of opinion about these same 5 questions on a global level. So we can take each question individually and then answer it on this poll. So the first question is, business has the responsibility to ensure that employees are protected from the virus in the workplace. So do you answer that with strongly agree, moderately agree, which is a 2, a 3, which is neutral, strongly agree, which is a 4, or strongly disagree? So can you please mark your
please, your requested to participate and answer the poll. So we need all of you to participate, so we have some solid results.
We can't be inclusive unless we're including everybody. Yes. So we want to have what your value is. Take you 10 seconds to give us responses to these each question. So do we have a total on that, Adil?
I think 3 have participated. We have still.
So we have.
So let's say 30% now. 30% have participated. Can the others also please participate and give us their opinion? Any other participations? Still 30% have participated. Okay, shall we end the poll now?
Okay, no, we'll go to the second question. But so we have.
All have, okay, actually, some have answered all questions already.
They answered all the questions. Okay.
If you want to go explain the questions one by one, it's fine. Probably it will help some to answer also.
or maybe somebody else will answer it. So brands should focus their advertising on how products can help people cope with